We are going to start with the program by welcoming you to this meeting. This is one of the most important meetings that I have attended in relation to TNCM work. And we hope that we will all remain through the 3 days of this meeting, one, but secondly, we hope that we will all feel free to speak candidly about the issues that we are discussing. Yes, it is about the Global Fund, but it is related mainly to the TNCM functions, efficiency, and effectiveness.
I'm just going to take you through, just to save time, to take you through the agenda of our meeting. This is a 3 days meeting, and we are going most of the time to spend our time in discussing, in reflecting, and also come up with what we will like to be as the NCM in future. So the first day we will spend in reflecting the past. Yeah, we will have a number of presentations. Then the second day will be mostly used for group work. You will be divided in 6 groups, and you will be informed about the groups. And then the third day, we will now strategize and come up with deliberations of what the type of CCM or the country coordinating mechanism we would like it to be.
This session will be facilitated by Russell.
Good morning, everybody, again. So let's get our work started, and I'd like to invite our first presenter, Dr. Temba.
My presentation outline is as seen. I will share with you an overview and objective of the Global Fund support, the current one. I will also touch base on Global Fund structure, the current coordination mechanisms, and what we have done so far, the success. Overview and objective of the Global Fund support to Tanzania. Then what are the objectives of those Global Fund grants, which are expected to spend the $593 million US dollars in the period of 3 years. In HIV, we want to reach the global target of 90 by 2020. Then the HIV prevalence has gone down dramatically from 10% in 1990s to 4.7 in this study, which was conducted in 2016-2017.
So then now's the chance. There's no wrong question. There's no silly question. There's no wrong answer.
We have seen a decline of prevalences, but we know that in terms of incidents, so at least new infections, we are not, there are some issues, especially in the area of HIV and AIDS. So my main, if we really want to reflect tomorrow on effectiveness and efficiency, I think we may need also to reflect. So that money then what? Go beyond the input, the output, and then really look into the impact. So I think this is my main concern here on the presentation on successes. Thank you.
The fact that we are seeing less people dying from malaria, from tuberculosis, MDR treatment, about 75% and above, HIV prevalence declining, that is a result of this investment in the country.
Sawa. So I have very few slides. Considering what Dr. Iltruda has said, it's just to take over from there because she actually presented how the coordination structure in country is, including the PURAG Program Management Unit. So PURAG has been coordinating Global Fund in the regions and districts since 2002, since the inception of the Global Fund in the country. The ministry, PURAG, represents all the regions and councils. So all the 26 regions in Tanzania mainland and 185 councils are under the Ministry of Regional Administration and Local Government. And the Minister of State, as of now, JAFO usually presents the budget for the ministry at the central level, but also for the 26 regions and the 185 councils, and our budget almost constitutes 21% of the national budget. Apart from coordinating the Global Fund, we also look of all the other funding from all the other partners, because we have a lot of implementing partners funded by PEPFAR, so we must know exactly what goes in each council and what does it go to do there, so that we leverage all these efforts and at the end of the day to maximize impact.
I do want to commend you for the work that you are doing in incorporating Global Fund resources into national systems, because this is what is so important and what has been, to be frank, a serious weakness of the Global Fund over the past several years, in that it's a vertical program. The funding comes at different times, it comes to different entities within the country, and making sure that it's tracked and coordinated has been a real challenge.
Comment. First of all, thank you very much for a detailed presentation. However, I would like to know the mechanisms. For example, you mentioned a challenge of a plan of Global Fund is not aligned with TZ fiscal year plan, late submission of reports, and late disbursement of funds from Global Funds. I would appreciate to hear the mechanisms of solving these problems.
So from November 2017, we knew exactly how much money will come to the country for each disease, for each implementer, for each intervention, for each cost category for the next 3 years. That information was communicated through the grant confirmation. So I'm requesting all the implementers, including Porage, to use that information to ensure that is key in on their EPICA system at the council level. They don't need to wait for money to come, because the money which is being disbursed is a reflection of the grant confirmation.
I now have the pleasure to introduce Professor Kamuzora, who you all know, I'm sure. And I knew him as a facilitator of one of the best HIV programs in the university. Before he... So I think he is the right person for this meeting and to be a chair of TNCM. Karibu sana, Prof.
It's my pleasure to welcome you here today for 3 days, of which I am sure it has already started demonstrating how it's going to be passionate. TNCM derives its legal status because it's working with the Prime Minister's office. So, and for us, as the government, we know for sure the importance of the global funding, but all other partners who are working with within the health sector. So the government is committed to work with everybody because we are looking at assisting the various strategies of the government as far as the health services delivery is concerned. I'm 100% sure these 3 days, the investment in time, the investment in resources, all the donors who have managed to put us together, but all of you who have volunteered your time, which is very invaluable, that the real evolution will take place on how we deliver our responsibilities. And for me, I'm very excited and humble to declare that our retreat is formally opened. Thank you so much for listening.
As we started this morning, there has been a lot of ground covered, but we could have done more, and I see a lot of willingness to do more. Yeah? And I think we are privileged to have not only just the Global Fund, but also PEPFAR, and the interest of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in this country. I think that's something to be truly grateful for.
Those 3 recommendations meant that the Global Fund had 3 key areas to examine, and this is what led to CCM evolution, the 3rd area. Obviously, they have working groups for the other 2 areas, but the one we're mainly concerned with, even though there is overlap and some synergies, is CCMs. So the Secretariat was mandated by the board to look at the existing CCM model and how could it be improved to deliver the strategy. And so the objective of the project was to improve CCM performance by looking at the different models of CCMs, because one size does not fit all. And different levels of ambitions for what CCMs could aspire to achieve had been set out by the analysis that the CCM had done. So what does the CCM Evolution Initiative want to do? It wants 3 major improvements. It wants to make sure that CCMs have now been differentiated according to the country context in which they're operating. There are certain areas in which they think CCM performance could be improved. And they also know that not all CCMs are working at the same level. Some CCMs have matured more than others, largely due, of course, to the constraining factors in the ambit in which they operate. So they think that instead of, as I said, treating them all the same, there are different levels at which CCMs are, and that the activities have to be designed accordingly. So among the 16 countries, they have very different CCMs. They're not all at the same level.
Thank you, Alette, for taking us through the history of the CCM evolution, what the expectations are, and what the implications will be for Tanzania. I open this for questions.
There will be a room for capacity building and engagement for civil society, that they can have the chance to have that space and to have the ownership and speaking. I'm also hoping the Global Fund programs in this retreat, in HIV perspective, to also look for cross-cutting agendas like sexual reproductive health.
A sustainability assessment that was done for Tanzania, I think it was last year, and I remember the Secretariat sent members that document on what Tanzania could do in order to sustain the gains that have been accrued through the Global Fund processes. And I'm just wondering whether the sustainability that you're talking about in the evolution document will actually build on that. Yeah, thank you.
When we move ahead in terms of the transformation of the Tncm, but that probably has to be one of the key working groups that you'll set up that will look at sustainability and transitioning, and look at it now, not in 5 or 10 years' time.
I got here in 2011, and I remember back then we barely got our funding requests in on time. Usually not on time. We were usually late. They were not very high quality, and so we always had to go back and forth. And that usually led to late grants, and that usually led to late commodities coming in, and our services not being put into place. I think this time around we got almost all of our elements in on time. We were able to do that as we also looked at the other parts of the program, HIV, malaria, and TB, and RSSH that are in country, and so I think we have a very good structure. But let's really build on this to be able to have something that is sustainable so that we can move forward and really understand that we're the high quality.
Mwaka huu tunaelekea kwenye uchaguzi. Uchaguzi waja, nadhani constituencies mbalimbali zinafanya hiyo. Kwa hiyo nawaomba tulete watu ambao wataweza kuyamudu haya. Asante sana.
Madam Buha is here to give us an energizer. And then we come back to another session for appreciative inquiry.
1, 2, 3.
Appreciative inquiry, leadership for change. It's all about searching or developing
or creating desire for future. And it's all about setting up a blueprint for change so that we deliver best, and also shaping the process. What Prof was saying in the morning about the transition theory of change, and the use of and changing, doing business as usual, all this is important. So we want to reflect on basic categories that we think are really important that we engage. So we are setting up a group that is going to use this style, appreciative inquiry, in really checking and putting proper strategies for change. And these groups are developed by considering your experience, where you are coming from. So we build synergy between us and in discussing these issues. The first group will be on the governance and oversight, so we have allocated people for that. But also, we have a group for the grant management and financial management, co-financing and sustainability, capacity building, and public and private partnerships. So we believe that when we discuss this, we can see the change we want to reflect. So again, the community space is set across all the 6 areas. So we won't have basically standalone community space.